The Deep Six. 6 stories from your world in 30 minutes or less. Hosted by Patty Steele and Steve Cochran. The Deep Six is on.
Welcome back to the continuing adventure we call the Deep Six, where each week we try to bring you the following. Couple of friends, 6 topics, and all in about 30 minutes. Hi, Patty Steele.
Hello, Steve Cochran.
You are in New York. You do the morning show on WCBS FM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Chicago on the big 890 WLS every morning. And in between those times, we do what we really want to do. We fight crime as superheroes.
Oh, is that what we do?
Oh, no. We do the Deep Six. Are you ready to start?
I create crime. I don't.
That's right. You create, I fight.
Thank you.
Normally, we do a big swath of entertainment news.
Mhm.
We're going to narrow it down to one very important entertainment story when we go with topic number 1 in show business. It's Underpants Gate with the auction of Prince Harry's pants, right? His underpants.
Underpants, yes.
All right, so tell me the story.
The Deep Six. Story number 1.
Let me take you back into history. 12 years ago,
Yes.
Harry was in Vegas, and he got into a little fun activity in which he was playing strip poker in a hotel room.
Oh, is this when he was playing pool and strip poker with the whores?
Yeah, yes, with
Okay.
some young ladies, some sex workers.
Yes.
And you please use the proper terminology.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Prostitutes.
And so he wound up losing his underpants to one of the whores / sex workers.
Yes.
And so,
By the way, just based on this, stick around for topic 6. More to come on that.
oh man, no kidding. So basically what happened was he gave up the underpants. They were black underpants, by the way.
Mhm.
And this chick, Carrie Royale, was the dancer. And it says she was a dancer who...
Hold on. You're telling me an exotic Vegas dancer is named Carrie Royale? What are the chances?
How great is that?
What
She
is
may have
it
changed
crazy?
her name, though, since this incident with a royal family member. That's what I'm thinking.
It's crazy. And of course, her parents, Bob and Connie Royale, are quite proud of her.
Exactly. So they say she took the garment, and I'm believing it's because she had a better hand than him.
Yeah, right. A legitimate win.
Yes. Or something to do with hands. I don't know. Anyway, so they had a night of partying. She took off with it, and she has now decided to auction it off. And of course, she's taken it to that really fabulous auction house at the Larry Flint's Hustler Club in Vegas.
Oh, sure. I
So-
mean, you could go with any of the New York auction houses, but why not use this one?
Yeah, I don't know that Christie's was exactly into this one. So it started at a $10,000 bid and very quickly climbed to $250,000. And they decided they're going to leave it as an online bid until the end of September, or until someone offers $1 million for the underpants.
So where will they end up?
Um,
Is there an underpants museum I'm not aware of?
I'm scared to ask where those will wind up. And they do say a little tidbit of what it sells for will go to Harry and Meghan Markle's charity Archwell. Now, I'm betting that they're not like supporting this, because Carrie Royale said, Harry's become such a bore. It's really a shame. At least these underpants are a reminder of what he used to be like when he was the fun prince. So it doesn't sound like they're working with her, because she wouldn't be calling him a bore.
I just want to know who's going to spend $250,000 on Harry's underpants. I don't think you should just spend $25 on anybody else's underpants. They're your underpants. It doesn't get more private and in some cases more unfortunate than your underpants. And I don't think you ought to be auctioning them off.
Well, little sidebar here. Do you realize that there are countries in other parts of the world, I won't name names, where they actually have vending machines where...
Is this the country that rhymes with Japan?
It doesn't really rhyme with Japan because it's the same word. They sell those in vending machines, and they are used underpanties that I guess people work out and then sell them, and they just keep doing it.
And then the fetishists go by and they buy them.
Yeah. So I don't know.
There's a lot of weird people in the world, huh?
Well, here's the other thing. Somebody bids $250,000 on those. Really? Do you really think they're going to cough up that money, so to speak?
Listen, I hope not. I would like to think they'd cough up maybe $14, get their own pair,
Right.
and
Sort of
from
alone.
Tommy John, and
Right.
then donate 249,000 and change to charity. But that's just my dream.
Yeah. Well, not going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah, I suppose not.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a bonus story for you. We didn't talk about this when we planned out this careful episode.
Uh-oh, I'm scared of this. Go ahead.
And I'm not necessarily interested in promoting other podcasts, but occasionally I'll listen to a few, and there's some really good ones out there.
Right.
The 2.5 million that are out there, there's the 4 good ones. There's ours and 3 others. But Smartless
Mhm.
can be
Oh,
entertaining.
that is entertaining.
Yeah, with Sean Hayes and Will
Yep.
Arnett and Jason Bateman. So
Jason
they had
Bateman.
Bradley Cooper on, your ex-husband.
My
And
future ex-husband.
so Bradley Cooper was talking about, or they were talking to him about taking on this gigantic project of doing A Star Is Born. And they said, how did you know you could pull this off? This is a huge thing,
Yeah.
because not only are you writing, directing, and acting, you had to learn how to sing and play. How did you know you could pull it off?
Opposite Lady Gaga.
Opposite Lady Gaga, one of the great voices of all time. This is what he said he did, and he swears it's true. He called his friend Jimmy Fallon,
Mhm.
and he said, is there any way that, and he said, I got a big favor to ask. Is there any way you could put me in a bit where I'm playing air guitar on the show? Because I want to get a look of what I look like playing air guitar to see if it looks realistic that I could pull off playing a rock star in a movie.
You're kidding.
No, that's how
There-
he decided to go
Is there
ahead with this.
video footage of that?
Yeah, he decided to go ahead with this gigantic movie project based on the fact that his air guitar on Jimmy Fallon looked good.
Can you
I
imagine
love that story.
being able to pick up the phone and call Jimmy Fallon and say, I'm going to be on the show because I want to practice something. Okay, come on over.
And I love that Jimmy Fallon ran back to the writer's room and said, we need a bit where Bradley Cooper plays air guitar.
Air guitar. Exactly. I
So-
love that. That's great.
All right, let's talk TV for a second with topic number 2.
The Deep Six, number 2.
So, have you found yourself quitting your streaming services? It seems those of us who subscribe and then unsubscribe have reached a record high. So, what happens is, and they're thinking this is why, is you say, oh my God, I got to watch the morning show on Apple Plus. And so you subscribe to Apple Plus. Probably not a good example because they're inexpensive to join. So people don't quit as much as they do other services, Netflix.
Right.
And what happens is they say, okay, I want to watch Game of Thrones or whatever. They binge it and then they quit the service. And that's what's happening. And they say it is epidemic because there are so many streaming services and they're coming up with these incredible shows. So they just join long enough. It's like going to the movies and saying, I'm going to pay to watch the movie. And then when I walk out, I have just paid once and I'm not going to pay to go see the movie every single week, and it's kind of that way. So
What a jackassery move. I mean, because the business exists to provide the entertainment to you, they should charge whatever they charge for it. If you don't want to pay the price for it, that's fine. But, that's just kind of
it's an asshole kind of thing to do because really and truly it costs a fortune to put these great shows on. And
right.
I got to say, the streaming services have changed television so much for the better because people aren't just making a bundle off of these stupid shows that they used to do. Now, I mean, you got to be really good to pull the audience in.
Well, you know what it's going to do? This is how you ruin it for everybody. This is why your mom would say this is why we can't have nice things.
Right.
The services will all go to some sort of standard minimum 6-month subscription.
Thank you. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. And it's on the one hand, it's a shame. On the other hand, look, there are maybe that would be a worthwhile thing. There's so many shows that I want to see on so many different streaming services that I don't get to watch. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I subscribe for like a certain period of time and I actually expand my horizons a little bit instead of just picking out the thing everybody's talking about, going and watching it and then cutting it off.
Don't you think somebody's going to have to merge? Because, when you and I were coming up in the business, movies were produced by one company. Now, when you go to see a movie, there are literally 4 or 5 studios.
Before the talkies.
Yeah, exactly. 4 or 5 studios combined to produce a movie.
Right.
And they're more expensive now. But I could easily see a day where not the gigantic companies merge,
Mhm,
but for lack of a better example, Hulu and HBO Max
mhm.
merge and they do the service together. Because I
And
go back to
combine
like
the
the
great
early
shows.
90s.
Yeah.
Remember Comedy Channel and Ha happened at the same time, and then Comedy Channel and Ha, which was
Mhm,
another channel, merged and became the Comedy Channel. I just don't
mhm.
know how you could live with all these separate services, all charging separately and having the number of subscribers go away.
Because then it becomes cable television.
Yeah,
You
which is
get
where we were. By
hundreds
the
of
way,
dollars.
my cable went out
Right.
last Monday and my cable was down for 5 days.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I know that in various parts of the world there are problems, but I don't know of any problem greater than those 5 days.
You know what? That's so bizarre. My husband, the same thing happened in my house, but this wasn't because the cable went out. It was because my husband frigged it up. He was trying to be cool and yeah, I can get this to work and I can combine the home lap sound system and then kaboom, nothing. And we still have nothing. And I don't care because I do have another TV in the house that if I am desperate, I'll go watch. But I'm a big reader. I'm a big listener. I'm not a big watcher. And he looked at me on Sunday morning and he said, I feel like my arms have been cut off. I just went,
Well,
really?
look, I use it for show prep. Your husband, without naming names, is a show business guy,
Mhm.
major executive, and embezzling from a studio. And he
He did
uses it
time for
for
that. He's clear.
he uses it for prep as well. So it is part of work, but it's just silly. The only thing I could think that would be more terrifying over a 5 day period is if I lost my phone and all the phone stores were closed.
That might be a little bit a tougher go for me. The
Yeah,
phone thing. Yeah.
hard to believe we
It,
were hard to believe we were alive in the 80s.
well, that's what and for me, the 90s, I didn't really get a phone until late in the game because I didn't really want one. I only wanted one once I had little children, and that wasn't until the late 90s when I suddenly went, "Oh my God, I've got to be in touch with these children," and and be able to call the house and call the nanny and call my husband and say, "Take care of the kids." It suddenly it wasn't just about me; it was about these little
Sure,
people. So yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it's talking about quitting the streaming services. Let's go to topic 3. This is something called quiet quitting, and I need an explanation.
Yeah, quiet quitting there it's a big topic on TikTok. In fact, just the phrase alone gets so many hits, like millions of hits on TikTok. And basically, it's the idea that some young, they call them professionals. I'm not sure you're a professional if you are trying to adopt a half-assed approach to your job, but they say young professionals reject the idea of going above and beyond in their careers. And so it's basically a lesser form of quitting. Like you make sure that you stay on the payroll, but you do as little as possible. And I was talking to a young chick that works for me at CBS and I named Heather, and Heather said, "Oh yeah, that's half-assed." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Oh yeah." She said, "You work with people," and she said, "And I see it honestly." She said, "Pretty much every job I've ever had, there are people who are half-assers, and they basically just make sure that they do just enough to get by. And it's become easier and easier to get by because everybody's looking for people to hire. There's not enough, for whatever reason, there's not enough workers out there. You do have a lot of kids that sort of came of age during the pandemic, so they started working from home. So that has a very dislocating effect on you from a job standpoint. And you also are home all the time, so you're like, wow, I'm really digging doing yoga at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm digging making banana bread whenever I feel like it. And so they sort of lost that, I'm in here, I'm getting on the train, I'm getting into work, and I'm like really going for it. um and so it's become a thing. There were some people weighing in and saying, well, pretty much everybody went through that when you're first young and you're in there and you've just got to kind of try to climb the corporate ladder, but you're doing all the grunt work and you don't really love it. But eventually you get a few little benefits and then you're suddenly like, wow, I got a whole future ahead of me. I got to make it work. Um, and so they're saying that this is just their version of it. The problem is because they have TikTok, they have formed this support group that may make that go on for a longer time rather
So
than
the
getting
so
over.
the attitude is reinforced.
Is
The
reinforced.
attitude of phoning it in, being half-assed at work. Like, I don't know. I've worked in a lot of places and I've been fired from a lot of places and thrown out of a lot of places. And I just think that you're not entitled to a job. And if you take a job, you have a responsibility to try to do the job.
Now,
And
but what about the whole concept? So take it away from somebody just wanting to get out and go to a yoga class or go hang with their friends and be able to drink. What about the whole concept of work-life balance? There are an awful lot of people who say, I mean, I have a brother who was in the military and brilliant guy, was eventually a lieutenant colonel, but he got out of it because he said, I just am not the kind of guy that wanted to be gone from my children for
well,
months and months
but
and
that's the
years
thing.
on
He
end.
made that choice. I think a work-life balance is up to you, not the people that hired you.
No, no, I'm saying that, and in fairness, that's what some of these people are, that weigh in on TikTok. Some of them are very serious about really wanting to have that balance where they have this life outside of their work that allows them, to maybe say, you know what, I don't need a Lamborghini. I don't need the high-end Toyota.
No,
I,
listen, I salute that. I salute that. And if you make that choice in life, it's fine. But the quiet quitting piece of this,
yeah,
where you
where
show
you're
up at
trying
work,
to do as little work as
you show
possible.
up for work, you take a paycheck, you watch the clock, and then you leave.
Yeah.
Don't take the job.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
The Deep Six. Number 4.
When you check into a hotel, whether you're alone or with other people, there are certain things you should always do. Like, for instance, one of the first things I do is pull back the bedspread, the cover.
Really? You look for
Yeah.
mice?
Well, I pull it back and get it off because I've seen too many of those blue light investigative I-team reports
Yeah.
of what
And the
other
porn
strange
flicks where people are going into a hotel and throwing them down.
and what other strangers have done, in the past on the
Right.
bed that I'm now going to have to sleep in. Turns out I
And
haven't even begun to crack the code. A flight attendant with 23 years experience has written a piece about this, and she has 8 things on Travel Awaits. That's a website that she absolutely does every time she goes to a hotel room. These are interesting. Number 1, prop open the door when you get there because there might be somebody else still in the room.
oh,
So
that's weird.
you take a suitcase, you prop open the door in case someone hasn't checked out yet, or you were given the wrong room key. She says more than once, I opened my room to find out somebody else's suitcases were still there. On a couple of occasions, guests hadn't checked out yet.
I
So
know. See, now that you have to travel, I guess, a lot to run into that because that's never happened to me.
number 2, check the bathroom. Bathroom's always next to, or almost always next to the door that you come in when you enter. Check the tub, open any drawers, see if any items were left behind, shake out the towels to make sure nothing was left or put inside them. It's also a way to see if you have clean towels or need fresh ones. She said, pro tip, when I'm traveling alone, I put a towel on the floor immediately, the floor of the tub to prevent slips or falls,
Oh,
because too many tubs don't have those, what do you call those things you put in the bottom of the tub? Those
those
skid.
little rubber things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get more
Tea towels
traction.
or whatever. Yeah, that have the, yeah.
So that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about it. She says, check the closet. If your room has a closet with doors, open them up, look around. Sometimes it helps if you use the flashlight on your phone. Once you've looked it over, make sure there's no gremlins in there. It's good checks and balances system. 4, check the bed. See, I'm at 1 is check the bed for me. She's already at, she's at 4 and she's checking the bed. Now it's time to check the beds. Pull the coverage back, make sure the bed is empty.
Under the bed.
And the sheets are clean.
Ew.
I always ask for an extra sheet to put over the fitted sheet as extra protection. Now we've seen the investigations with the bed bugs in luxury hotels, not a pleasant encounter. But there are products you can buy. Several stores sell bed bug spray to ease your concern.
Oh.
If you don't have any, you can also use toothpaste.
What?
You lift the covered sheet and put a little on the corner of the mattress. If there's any bed bugs there, it scares them off.
Oh, but what if you're like in a king size bed and you just put a little dot on one end? Are they all off the entire bed?
Yeah, our
They have
flight
that.
attendant friend
What are
said
their
that's all you need.
noses? They have like incredible noses on those bugs.
Apparently so. Their brains are tiny. Their noses are gigantic.
Ginormous.
Number 5, review the evacuation plan. Well, of course, the flight attendant says that. She goes into the room. She does the thing with her hands where she tells herself how to get out. She said it's important to review the evacuation plan. Once you close the door and inside, review the emergency evacuation plan if you have to get out. I wouldn't think this would ever apply to me. And last summer, my wife and I were at a hotel where there was a fire at 3:00 in the morning. We had to evacuate the hotel.
Oh my gosh. And you had done that and you knew the evacuation plan, or no?
Nope.
Nope,
I had
you
no
just ran
idea.
in the hall screaming.
No
In your
idea.
underpants.
I tripped over people. I knocked children down. I wanted to be brave. Number
Speaking of
6, check
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the dresser and the nightstand drawers. She said, I do this to look around lamps, clocks, TVs, any electronics that could have been left behind. Could be an indication the room wasn't well cleaned. Another pro tip here, she said, I usually only have maid service every other day. If I need more things, I just call the desk. Also, I don't find a need in the room for cleaning the day before I'm checking out. Each time you have maid service, you have to pick up your things so they can clean, and double check to make sure everything was packed up. Number 7, when to ask for a room change. If the room's not to your satisfaction, you will not be the first. Do not be embarrassed to ask the front desk for another room. That way your stay will be worthwhile. It's much better than sitting there hating where you are and what you're doing and complaining to yourself, because you won't be able to change it. And number 8, unpack your hotel must-haves. Now the room's ready to go. Unpack the things you never leave home without that make you feel like you'll survive another day.
Teddy bear.
That I get all of those 8 steps. The problem is by the time I get to a hotel, I'm always so tired
Right.
and
You
done with
fall down on
travel.
the filthy bed and go to sleep.
Yeah, I think I'm still just going to peel off the bedspread and hope for the best and get a tetanus shot the next day.
Now, I did not hear you mention looking under the bed, because I actually checked into a beautiful high-end hotel in New York during a snow event in the city. And I couldn't, I needed to spend the night so I could get to work in the early morning, and found underpants under the bed. Not
Under the bed.
Yes.
Oh my.
And I would have been, I'm sure I would have survived the night had I not looked and seen them. But I always look under the bed because I'm always creeped out by the idea of anything being under there, be it a mouse, a very slender person, if it's a low-rise bed, somebody's shoes, whatever it is. I always look under the bed, and I, it worked out. It worked out. My dream came true. I found something.
You know what? You make a great point. I think so many times I think of a box bed where it's resting on a bed and there's really not a lot of room under the bed, but still a lot of hotels have the traditional setup.
Right.
And underneath is generally where your drifters and serial killers are.
Right. And underpants.
The Deep Six. Number 5.
You know that China's gone with a zero policy for COVID. What is that doing? Are people being trapped? What are they doing?
Well, that's the thing. Things can happen there that at least we think can't happen here, but fasten your seatbelts. You never know. They were talking about at an Ikea store in Shanghai a couple weeks ago. Local authorities decided to do a surprise lockdown because it turned out there was a small child who had COVID but was asymptomatic, which tells me that they must test everybody that walks in the store for COVID. And so they decided they were going to lock everybody in and that no one could enter and no one could leave. And people freaked out. They wanted to get out of the store, as you can imagine. And they tried to force their way past police officers who were trying to lock them inside. Folks who were unable to escape were stuck inside, some for as much as 4 hours before they were then transferred to nearby hotels for quarantine. State officials said they had implemented temporary control measures. We're going to lock you in an IKEA store. I hope they had plenty of Swedish meatballs. Otherwise, what's the point of being there? But they did say some people did have to stay. They only had to quarantine on site for 2 days. And then they had to do 5 days of health monitoring in the aftermath.
It makes me think, if I had to be locked in a store, what store would I want to be locked in? And the instant answer that comes to mind for me would be Costco.
Costco. Oh my God, I love you 1,000%.
Right, because
guess what?
everything. They've got everything.
Everything. You can kick the tires if you like tires. You can go put on sweatshirts and nighties and sneakers and all that kind of stuff. You can help yourself to prime steaks and wander over to where the grills are and go and grab the big tanks of propane and hook them up. I mean, you name it, you can do it. There's ice cream.
There's booze.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. There's tons of booze.
Yeah.
I might lock everybody out.
Yeah,
I
and
would
there's
not
couches. There's couches or beds in some cases,
TVs.
depending on the Costco.
TVs, jewelry. You can
Mhm.
try every piece of jewelry on.
It's much better than the idea I had where you had to combine several stores for a franchise I'd call Bed, Bath, and Mattress Pizza. So, there's a lot of ideas in there and it just doesn't exactly jump off the tongue.
Mattress pizza doesn't sound so great to me.
No, it's not so great.
The Deep Six. Number 6.
All right, finally, we got a topic 6, and I don't think we've ever done a more adult topic. So I'm just warning you now, if you're listening to the Deep Six with kids or grandparents, or you yourself are often offended by adult topics,
Close
I
one
just want
ear.
to tell you.
If that's the case.
Yeah, just know that this is a grown-up thing to talk about. It's the amount of calories burned in various sex positions,
Right.
According to a chart that came out called Lockdown Sexercise. So
Now,
when everybody was locked down, what kind of workout would you get?
now, first off, before you go to that chart, let's just do basic sex.
Mhm.
Basic sex, they did a study on this and they said that men burn 100 calories for just basic yawn sex. Women only burn 70. And I find that really interesting because I think that women kind of like, okay, when is it done? You know? But they say they're not sure why men burn more calories. They say it could be because they're more active or simply because it's taking more energy because they weigh more. But they say if you're looking to burn the most calories, these are some of the positions you should try. Should I read them all or should I read them one at a time and let you describe
Well,
them?
I'm going to leave the 3 that I know you have
Uh-huh.
for us to describe in really uncomfortable detail. But let me just whip through some others here. There are
Please don't use
positions.
the word whip in this story.
There are positions called the eagle,
The eagle.
spooning, doggy, 69 for you math lovers. Legs up, the reverse cowgirl, the lotus position, the regular
Reverse
cowgirl.
Girl.
Yes, the standing position, and then the top 3, which are
Okay. The kneeling wheelbarrow position. Can you explain that one to me? I don't know what that means.
well, I'm going to try to describe this to you. The kneeling wheelbarrow would be. Have you ever seen like a pointer, a dog, a pointer where?
Oh, yes. The dogs, they're on all fours, but their tail goes out behind them and their nose goes straight forward.
Okay, that's you.
Okay.
You're the pointer.
My nose is going straight forward and
Yeah.
my tail is out behind me.
You're the pointer, and your close
What are
friend
you?
is your close friend. Me, sure, absolutely, and is in a very close position, right behind you, making sure that whatever you're pointing at is something we can both see. So that's the best way I can describe that position.
Well, I do see that in that case, I burn more calories than you.
Yes, 167. Well, actually, I've got 167 for the man, 149 for the woman.
Oh, I see it. I see, because the pink would be. See,
Yes.
look at me. I wasn't being sexist there. I thought the pink was the man and the blue was the girl.
It really depends on the man.
Yes, I think you're right.
What is the other 2? What are the other 2s?
There's the squat, which
The squat sounds awful. It just
it looks as awful as it sounds.
It sounds awful. And the only way we can describe this to you is think of you in an exercise class as a man laying on your back, and the trainer says, okay, do bridges. And the bridges, of course, is where you're laying on your back and you'd raise your hips.
You push up with your feet and
And then
the other person squats.
Yeah, the other person squats over you and then doesn't squat and then squats again and then doesn't squat. And
I would like to say right here, we're not looking at graphic photographs of these things. These are all lovely little pink and blue
these are artist renderings.
right. You don't really see parts or anything. You just, silhouettes kind of.
There is nothing erotic about these positions as they're being, portrayed here.
Yeah, the squat, the woman burns 188 calories, the man 50. So
And the last one,
The butter churner.
All right. Now, when you first brought this up, my thought was, do you have to be Amish? I don't know.
Or you have to be from another time in another place.
The butter churner, it's very difficult to describe this position, but essentially the
You
woman,
could get hurt with this one.
you really could. The woman is essentially in the beginning of a tumbling move where you would do a backward somersault.
Yeah, you're kind of balancing on your head and shoulders with your hands straight out on the floor, but the rest of you's up in the air.
The man then you'd stop mid-move. So you are then in a position where you're only halfway through your backward somersault.
This man looks like he's on a motorcycle.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
You are the motorcycle seat. That's a great way of describing it.
Here I am.
Yes.
Wow.
You're the motorcycle seat, and the man, or in this case, Ezekiel, the butter churner, he climbs on the motorcycle seat and proceeds to churn.
To ride.
Yeah. Yeah, this position burns 179 calories for women in 30 minutes, 211 for men. I would say if you ever tried this, it will end your relationship. It will put you in the hospital, and you're going to get exactly what you deserve.
Depending on who suggested it, right?
Yeah, and it all comes down to the same thing. Anytime this topic comes up, and it comes up in different ways, but when this topic comes up about calories burned during sex, I don't know many people that go, it'd be great.
Yeah.
If we had sex to
We
burn
did the reverse
calories.
cowgirl. Oh, wow, that's really. Here's the one problem I have with your little. By the way, did you make this chart or did someone?
No, I don't have the ability to make these drawings.
Okay, so it is the 6 positions that burn the most. Oh, the sex positions, obviously. Duh. The sex positions that burn the most and the least in 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Where's that coming from?
Yeah, no, listen, 30 minutes. I really only need 4.
At most. I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking.
And by the way, 4 includes changing the batteries in the remote.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. That is the semi-adult and fully adult version of the Deep Six. If you have any complaints,
I've learned a lot here this week.
I feel it's educational. And if you have any complaints about this, I would advise you to keep them to yourself, or you could contact us at WCBS in New York and WLS in Chicago.
Yeah, you tell them about it.
Yeah, and tell them what terrible people we are. We're glad you listened. 2 friends, 6 topics, 30-ish minutes. And we hope you like the Deep Six.
And you're Steve Cochran. And who am I?
And you're Patty Steele. And please be careful when practicing the butter churner.
I am on my way to try it right now.
Thanks for listening. The Deep Six. Subscribe, rate, follow, or review at pattysteele.com or cochranshow.com.